I'm a watchman, forever vigilant, steady watching and listening, disciplined, militant, killing these dudes that started visiting. What's the latest word, yo, Sil? We need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Sil. We need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show. Let's go.
Want to throw a recommendation out there. This Matt Fraction Batman run. The number one issue of this, which came out like a month ago or so, that was the big issue. Batman #1. Sold like 500,000 copies. Biggest selling comic of the year, because you got first Batman, and then you have a Batman #1, so that is going to have a lot of attention. And then two, this Batman run, the writer Matt Fraction, he did a recent kind of like a detective run, which a lot of people seem to like. I really didn't get into that one, but I probably need to go back and reread it, because I like how he's depicting this Batman and Robin. Art by the great George Jimenez. I'm having a blast with these first two issues. This is on my pull list every month now. Looking forward to some Batman. So we always gotta throw in a little comic book recommendation as we go, to just to remind people, hey, you don't read comic books. and stay tuned in the near future. Again, I'm gonna have much more comic book coverage. Now, recently I've been talking about how I'm going to start pulling examples of how people are just trying to start stupid fan wars. Like I put up that article in the previous episode, and you got these articles. They will say inflammatory things one way or another about James Gunn or Zack Snyder, and they rely on you to push their articles and argue amongst yourselves. It's very easy to do this type of content, to grift either side of this. I could easily, make countless videos saying what I hate about James Gunn, and if I have a passion for it, I would, but I just, it's not that deep to me. And the type of conversations that would attract, I'm not interested in. But one thing I know, I've always defended the Snyder fandom against falsities. I will continue to. There's the Snyder fandom, just like the DC fandom, is fractured as well. There are many in the Snyder fandom that's allowing people to push their agendas. A lot of faceless accounts, which I'll start bringing up on the screen, because people act like they don't understand when I say the disingenuous people that's in the Snyder fandom, that's pushing narratives, false stories, and I watched that happen. And I spoke out against it with the Superman rollout. No matter what you feel about James Gunn, there's no reason to lie or to force false numbers, false figures. So it's clear, again, what that Superman film has done, but it's also clear there's people with agendas that have infiltrated the Snyder fandom years ago. There's even angles where it's political agendas. The Us United era, it was really just like a paragraph in the Snyder story that was introducing a political agenda, and then there's those that's opposed to that, that's pushing their agendas now. Even with James Gunn, there's a political agenda of people that's upset with him after that Earth X story, right? So it's like I could easily spell this out for you, but let's keep it real. But my main thing here is, debates like this, it's fanning stupid fanboy wars, and that's just not what I'm going to do on my channel. I think, yeah, I mean, that could probably be pretty lucrative if I fan the flames a little bit. But when I have concerns about James Gunn, it's going to be just like in this video, over on this video that you saw, the criticism I have, it's going to stick to the entertainment. And so, like I said, we're not going to dip our toe in all this, but this is just an example of how easy it is to fan the flames, do what you do, whatever. But this is what I'm talking about, the example of, oh, let's start a fight, or let's get the Snyder fans to push my tweet. Let's get Gunn and Snyder fans to start fighting. This is what I'm talking about. Now, this is not me, again, policing what people should do. It's just, I don't want that nonsense over here. That's just what I mean. So we showed an example last episode. This is another account that's obviously here just to farm engagement. And like I said, do what you do. Twitter pays. Twitter throws you a little check, every few weeks or once a month. All good. But this is, again, what I don't want on my platform. And another reason I wanted to weed out disingenuous voices is because I want to have nuanced conversations like this here, like I've been having for this entire James Gunn Superman rollout. The film came out, it did what it did. No, it wasn't the greatest Superman film ever. No, it didn't make $1 billion, but it also didn't bomb like my beloved Black Adam. It did not. It was not DOA. Because when you want to have these fanboy wars and be disingenuous about numbers and metrics, well-known metrics, then you can't have these nuanced conversations. And again, that's what I want to have on this channel. So with James Gunn Superman, as we said countless times, Warner Brothers did count it as a profit among all the films they put out of this year. It's been a very successful year for Warner Brothers and films they distributed as well, including F1. So they claimed a profit on all their films. I think since Minecraft dropped, it's been just a streak of films. So it is counted as a profit. It did do well digital when we actually looked at the actual digital metrics, and we covered that here on this channel. And now on HBO Max, it has made a splash in viewership. Is it the most viewed film ever? No. It did pretty respectful on this, opening release weekend, just showing that this film has viewership, and that's all. And then now we can, as we see the metrics, now we can have, again, nuanced conversations as far as the true, popularity of it. And that's why I say on here, when we use, when we talk box office and projections and what's going on with the marketing, advertising tie-ins, all that stuff does count. And, a lot of people just don't know how it works. And there's been a lot of ignorant comments out there. And then people want to bring up other outlets like my friends at Sama TV. Sama TV, there's a channel, there's a video on this very channel where I had Sama TV on the channel, and they were declaring the Snyder Cut a success. So I find it very funny when I was on Twitter and someone was trying to go back and forth with me about the Snyder Cut, being successful, and they was like, they tried to put up the Samba numbers like as if it was defeating me, saying, the Snyder Cut, bombed. And I was like, bro, I have a video of Sama TV explaining those metrics, saying that Snyder Cut was successful. So, I mean, if you're going to use these metrics and these numbers, don't use it wrong. Don't play in my face with it, because I look at this stuff nearly daily. So when we get to Nielsen, people won't act like they understand how the Nielsen ratings work. There's a lot of disingenuous channels out there that's trying to, again, misuse information. And with Nielsen, people don't realize they don't always have access to all the programming on HBO Max. Just saying. So, because people want to look at Nielsen and say, "Oh, it didn't chart here, it charted here." They don't even know how it works. So I would advise people just leave it to people to actually know how these metrics work or learn how to use it right if you're going to have conversations. But Superman again did respectfully. I think Man of Tomorrow needs to be a bigger spectacle, in my opinion, because I think Supergirl is going to be a spectacle. Um, Clayface is going to be a very interesting character story, and you already know how Reeves Batman. That's going to knock it out of the park. I think he's really going to ramp that up. So this is where Superman is placed. Respectfully, we do need more. We do need another level, but again, we can gauge as far as where it's at now. Andy Muschietti Unchained. Muschietti is explaining the Flash failure, saying people talking crap, but they don't even watch it. Some strong tones here from Muschietti here. Got a little gangster there, huh? It says here Muschietti also briefly reflected on how anger-based online bandwagons can harm a film's reception, especially when outrage is misdirected by people who haven't even seen the work itself. A dynamic he suggested played out with Ezra Miller's off-screen controversies came unfairly imprinted on the movie and the studio behind it. The Muschietti says, "Yeah, we just moved on. Understand that sometimes there's a headwind in a project that you dedicated a lot of work to, and we're very proud of it. I think it's a good movie." Like I've been saying with the Flash. I mean, obviously, as I always say, I had some personal investments in the Flash. I have stories tied to it, and wanted to see it, confirmed. But the film itself, I still watch the film probably at least once a month. I love the Michael Keaton parts of the film. I mean, I like the Flash parts. I like the film. It's a few sequences I didn't really like the baby shower sequence was, I think, ridiculous. But I like the film overall, and I did find it interesting that there were, DC fans. Some DC fans was, devoted to, wanting the film to fail. I just found it kind of odd. I kind of started noticing it with Black Adam, and then you saw it kind of carry over with the Flash, and I'm just like, I mean, I get if something's not for you, but it was kind of some piling on. He acknowledges the reality of the film's poor box office performance. He says a lot of people did not see it. Well, they saw it. That's the thing with these with these hate accounts. They pirate it. They watch the films and eventually, just so they can obviously pile on it some more. And he said, you know how it is, how things are these days. People don't see things. They like to talk crap about it. They like to jump on the bandwagons. They don't really know. People are angry for reasons that are unrelated to these things. Muschietti is very, very passionate responses here from Muschietti with this entire situation. And they mentioned the Ezra Miller situation. How that definitely was a publicity crisis, and it was, but it is. We should, as much as people bring up the Ezra Miller situations, I would like to see people keep that same energy and also state the charges were dropped against Ezra Miller. So Ezra was actually innocent. A very interesting quotes there from Andy Muschietti. Again, he's on his press run right now for the Welcome to Derry series, which is dropping this month. We'll be covering that. I'll probably be covering that on my film channel, link in the description, sylabdul Film and Entertainment. We'll talk more about that series, which is focusing on Pennywise in different time eras. First season tackles 1962. So it's interesting. So it's almost like an anthology series, right? So So we'll see. Let me know in the comments below. How did you feel about the Flash film? Did you think it was a bunch of waste, like people were piling on? I mean, like I said, in real time, I was like, this Flash film is not that bad. And just knowing that, what could have been with the Flash film if the reboot, didn't happen. Because that's the funny thing with the Flash film. It started off as the original idea of the Flash was to do a Flashpoint in the SnyderVerse, right? Then it became this film that was going to reboot the SnyderVerse into the Hamada era, where you would have Supergirl, Batgirl, Mara would have had more prominence. It would have been like almost like a female Justice League type thing. And then when DeLuca and Abdi came in, they was going to make it where you're going to pull Supergirl and have Cavill Superman there, and so you would have the cousins together. You would have Michael Keaton there, and then Batfleck would have been lost in time, and it would have been almost like a timey-wimey conclusion, because they would have did either a follow-up team-up film or another Flash film, but it would have got Batfleck out of time. So they were setting up some cool stuff, and then once Gunn and Safran was hired, they decided to go a different direction and kind of just stop everything in 2023 for DC, for better or worse. We're in the Gunverse right now. 2025, we got all the Gunn projects, and now it's, let's see what they do next. It has to be another gear, as I always keep saying with this. There has to be another level to the Superman saga, and so we'll see. We're just at step one. And as I'll continue to say, I'm very excited for the future of DC as far as in 2026. Things will be a lot of fun stuff, not just in film and streaming, but also comics and animated film as well too, with Nightfall coming out next year. So I'm looking forward to DC, but we're going to definitely judge it as is. But just again, what did you think of the Flash film? Did you like it for what it ended up being? Do you still watch it? It's on HBO Max. I don't have it on physical media. I don't know if I find like a good 4K box or something, I'll probably grab it. I like the film. We got to touch on some business today. As you know, over here, obviously I talk about the CBMs and the entertainment, but also the business behind it. And a major topic on this channel is obviously, as many times as Warner Brothers has changed hands, because they are the owners of the DC brand. So we're always interested who's owning Warner Brothers, right? So it says Warner Brothers is said to rebuff Paramount takeover approach. I always reflect back to 4 years ago. Me and the late great Mikey Sutton, we talked about on the day that Discovery bought Warner Brothers from AT&T. The game plan was to flip Warner Brothers eventually. And this is kind of where we're at, where Warner Bros. is able to legally be sold again, because there's like a waiting period after the sales, each time. And a lot of people, we expected 4 years ago, Comcast would come knocking. Comcast came knocking, and they passed on the entire package of Warner Bros. Discovery. So everyone was waiting on Warner Brothers to split next spring. Here comes Paramount and the new leadership over there with Paramount, because they were just bought out, and they're saying we want to buy Warner Bros. Discovery as a whole to prevent the bidding war that's likely going to come next spring. So Paramount kicked the tires, and they actually said, "Hey, we're going to throw you a little offer." Now, reportedly, what this is saying is that Zaslav turned down the offer, the initial offer, because it's the price, they bid it too low. So Paramount's basically saying like, hey, we'll buy the whole thing, but we ain't gonna bid against ourselves. No one else is bidding. So that's what this is, just an initial offer. and we'll see if other people jump in. It says Paramount has several options in its pursuit of Warner Brothers, including boosting its bid, going directly to shareholders, or finding additional backing through a financial partner. Now, obviously, again, you put in a bid, they could bid against themselves and raise the bid, which I don't see that happening. Go directly to shareholders and basically buy out all the shares, a true takeover. Now that would be interesting. And then also finding additional backing through a financial partner. And there's other reports that Paramount is kicking the tires on that as well too, to get there's other financial partners, to come in and put in some money, and in turn they would get a little share of the company as well too. So interesting. All options are being considered. And it says Zaza believes he can get a hefty premium for his streaming and studio businesses once they separated from the cable channels. And that could be possible. The fact that Warner Bros. Discovery all in one block is, that's what the shares are now. I think the shares are just under $20 with Warner Bros. And Discovery together. Zaza feels once you separate Warner Bros. From Discovery and the cable channels, that Warner Brothers, those shares could shoot up and it'll be actually worth more. So that's why he wants to wait. Zaza wants to wait. Paramount, I feel they're going to just survey the situation, and when they need to really stamp this deal down, I think they will get it done. But I kind of want to see this go into next spring, where you split Warner Brothers from Discovery and cable channels, and this could be like a wild, wild west of bidding. As it says here, CNBC reported that the companies, they definitely are in talks about a deal, and the only disagreement was the price. Now, Ellison, the head of the new Paramount, said he couldn't comment on Warner Bros. Specifically. So, I mean, that's because they were actually in talks. But Ellison definitely wants, again, we already know they're talking. So he was making a case for these large mergers. He said his interest is making more film and TV shows to boost subscriptions for Paramount Plus. HBO Max has definitely been boosting as well. So that'd be an interesting coupling. Again, if that happens, he also suggested his company will have an easier time than others in getting mergers approved by regulators in Washington. So definitely Ellison has the right connections, and he feels he can get this done. And this is an interesting point here. Again, these business analysts are all commenting on this, and they said Warner Brothers is actually in the driver's seat. Zaza's in the driving seat because, like I said, he can just hold off. Paramount needs this deal more than Warner Brothers. Zaza can wait for the big bidding war next spring, and he's kind of smart in waiting. But again, if Paramount wants to overpay now, then Paramount can get it done. And like I said, they can add all of this streaming film. I mean, Paramount, would love this deal, but they need this more than Warner Brothers needs to sell to Paramount. Zaza wants a wild bidding spree, and like I said, I'm the more I think about it, I'm leaning more towards that, because then you get Amazon involved, potentially Apple. Some people say Netflix, but Netflix is not going to outbid anybody. They kind of went on record saying they're against these mergers. So people bring up Netflix trying to manifest it, but I don't even see them even putting a bid in. I'm very intrigued with Amazon, because I think Amazon would really diversify DC. Amazon's very interested in DC. So, again, you have to wait for things to split for that to happen. So let me know in the comments below what you've been thinking with this potential Warner Brothers sale. The talks are happening. I know people want to be in denial. Talks are definitely happening. but now it's about, again, it's about the win, because it's definitely happening. It just, will Paramount overpay or not? If Paramount doesn't overpay, then we get to next spring, then things get very, very interesting. Looking forward to that. Now, let me just a side note, because people were bringing up stuff about Ellison, and he wants to get rid of all woke entertainment and stuff like that. So currently, right now, Ellison and Paramount, they have the Star Trek IP, right? Now, one thing they are going to do with Star Trek is kind of streamline Star Trek, so that it's not just a separate television stuff and separate film stuff. They want to kind of streamline it. So that means a lot of these, I think all the Star Trek streaming shows, whatever they got going on right now, they're probably going to be, they're pretty much going to be out on all of those, and kind of have a more singular voice with film, like I said, and streaming. But also, too, people have to understand, it's not just simply saying, oh, we're going to get rid of woke stuff. I think it's going to be still some kind of diversity, in these projects. And I think if Ellison, I'll just say this in short, if Ellison and Paramount buys Warner Brothers outright, that is not about, oh, let's get rid of, everything's woke. Like James Gunn, he's like a woke awareness type of person, but not like heavy-handed. I saw some people taking the Earth X reveal in Peacemaker as if guns out of control, being, showing Nazis, when it's literally from the comic books. So that's why I said before, of people with their agendas coming to the fandom. Again, I don't like tokenism. I'm on record saying that. But also, too, the use of the term woke and these anti-woke type of conversations have definitely went too far, to the point where they're saying, again, what Ellison's going to do. He didn't even do this with Star Trek yet. He's just streamlining Star Trek. And then just in theory, if Paramount, Ellison, if they buy Warner Brothers, I believe they're going to mostly keep things as is, as far as Warner Brothers Films, New Line Cinema, and I believe DC Studios as well too. Now, DC Studios has to continue to perform, because then, yeah, all bets are off when these mergers happen. Nothing's guaranteed. But I do find it interesting. It seems like the safest people in this merger is Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi. Like, what a difference a year makes, right? So that's interesting. But I just kind of wanted to address that. I see people just loosely talking about stuff. And it's not going to be some mass overhaul and, we're anti-woke, when, again, you haven't even seen it done with Paramount yet. Now, if he swiftly just, strikes down on Star Trek, something he owns right now, then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, he may really come in clean house. But we have no indication of that. So a lot of fantasy talk out there. So now we have to address Zack Snyder yet again posting a SnyderVerse DC related picture on Instagram, right? Got a lot of people talking, showing again just the interest of this epic style of DC. And it gives different tones. Right now we have the gun verse and we have a certain tone, and that's cool. It has its viewership, right? We looked at the previous segment on this show. We looked at the Nielsen ratings. So James Gunn, DCU, has its viewership and an interest, and SnyderVerse DCEU still has its interest as well. Now, I touched on this on a previous episode. Let me replay some of that segment, because that was a pretty popular segment. This is interesting. Zack Snyder, again, he's been on Instagram just, for under a month. and he's just dropping different pictures, and everyone's excited. You know, obviously the fandom excited anytime Zack Snyder drops anything, but especially if it's anything touching on the DC SnyderVerse, right? DCEU. I made no bones about it. The core of my channel, and me included, we wanted Zack to finish his story. Finish his story, and then you can go back and, you know, that's an era of DC. Just like Tim Burton had his era, which was stopped prematurely. Nolan had his era, which, you know, the untimely passing of Heath Ledger sort of derailed his Batman, his Dark Knight Rises, but Nolan still had his era, and then it was on to the Superman era. They wanted Nolan to do Superman, which in hindsight, that would have been kind of wild too if Nolan would actually did that Superman film. But he tapped his buddy Zack Snyder, and the rest is history. Man of Steel. And again, that era was prematurely upended, really for various reasons. But the SnyderVerse DCEU was just epic. Like the giving James Gunn's DC a chance, you know, for ground level. You still want to see it come up a notch in epic tones. And I think there's a chance his DCU can get off the ground and, you know, and do its thing. But in 2013, Man of Steel was the ground level. And it did quite well. All right. Like you have James Gunn's DC for 2025 combined, you have Creature Commandos, Peacemaker, Superman, and a promise of things to come. All that combined didn't match, in my opinion, what Man of Steel did when it dropped. It was a Superman that we needed after Superman Returns at that time. And it launched the DCEU. Then you got BVS that did massive numbers, of course. And to this day, I think Greg Silverman, one of the producers, says they made plenty of money off of BVS after the theatrical even. So as Snyder fans, if people don't understand, Snyder fans, it was an epic trajectory. And we know how that story went. So the other day, Zack Snyder posted this. Henry Cavill is Superman. From BVS, shot with my monochrome, we got 50 millimeter, that camera. And he says 3 weeks on Instagram. Thanks to everyone. So this caused a lot of stir. And I want to comment on a few things that I'm seeing people talk about. And just give my take on things. First, initial reaction, seeing Zack Snyder post this. I was waiting for something DC, right? Like, and obviously he's filming The Last Photograph. I think that's going to be epic storytelling. Per usual, Zack Snyder's a very visual storyteller. Maybe people don't like his dialogue and stuff. I don't know. Zack Snyder has his style. Zack Snyder has his fans. And he's continuing to get financial backing. People got to keep that in mind because there is an audience. So him dropping this, I was just excited again just to see something DC related. Now wait till he drops a Ben Affleck picture. That'd be insane, right? Sheesh. A Gal Gadot picture. Come on now. But what do I feel this meant? There seems to be a conversation around you know, this was like a couple years ago. Zack Snyder, he's done with DC. Hey, guys, the antis are, hey, guys, Zack's done. Stop asking him. He's focused on his Netflix stuff. That's what people who weren't fans of Zack Snyder, who didn't see the clues of the Snyder Cut being released, said it was a pipe dream. These are the ones trying to say, hey, Zack Snyder has Snyder fans. Zack has moved on from DC. It's over. But we remember leading up to the Snyder Cut, Zack dropped that Dark Side picture. Zack started dropping all kinds of hints. We know when Zack wants to keep the DC conversation going, Zack knows what to do. So I've been saying before the James Gunn Superman film came out, during the filming of James Gunn Superman, and even after the performance of James Gunn Superman, that I feel Zack Snyder would have a chance to do some type of DC Elseworlds just to finish some version of his story. I've always felt that was possible. No matter if James Gunn Superman did $1 billion in the box office. Now they're claiming it's again a profit on their books, and that's what it is. I don't think that kills the chance for Zack Snyder to do another DC project. And that's why I said with the Snyder fandom, many are being misled by disingenuous people. And that narrative was out there that James Gunn has to fail. This has to be DOA. And then Zack, we could restore the SnyderVerse. No. I've maintained that for the last few years. That you could have the Reeves verse, Crime Saga. You could have Gunn's verse, DCU. You could have Zack Snyder's Elseworld DC as well. SnyderVerse. Nothing is dependent on the other. I don't feel Zack is going to come back and build out that world again. Let's just kind of be clear when we talk about this stuff. Let's be clear. Expectations. Restore the SnyderVerse was obviously the 5-part arc. His Superman saga, right? Zack Snyder's Superman saga. You had a Cyborg film. You had a Flashpoint event. You had an Atom project. You had several things going on with the SnyderVerse. So when we talk about restore, I'll just say this: like when the Snyder Cut came out, 2021. And talking with different accounts, Fiona put out there, she had the exclusive picture, first off, of the Snyder Cut where Wonder Woman's jumping over Steppenwolf. And then the Fiona account started talking about restore the SnyderVerse. And at that time, talking with them then, it was about let's continue, let's do the Batman, make the Batman movie, restore all these projects. And it was a chance for that. In 2022, things changed after Jason Kilar, basically fired the people who wanted to restore the SnyderVerse. Then all of a sudden it was suck at Warner Brothers. This all happened like within a month. And that was a chance to restore all these projects. Now, when we talk about restore, I think most people are just saying finish Zack's story. And that's fine. But I spell it out like that because you had people still maintaining if we can get James Gunn Superman the movie to fail, then Zack can take over DC again. I don't see that happening. But I do see is a chance for Zack to give us a one shot and finish the story. I do believe that. And I'm going to continue to keep my ear out to see if there's a chance for that to happen. Well, what I won't do is support false narratives. We're not going to do that. So seeing this picture, I feel like, oh, they're going to fire James Gunn and Zack's going to take over DC. No, The hope I do hold out, like I said, is for Zack to finish his story. I want to be very clear. When I'm saying restore the SnyderVerse, when I'm saying, Zack could do DC again, it's to finish his story. And also, too, he wants to do the Dark Knight Returns. He wants to do another adaptation, which could all mean the same thing. I'm of the opinion when Zack says, I want to do Dark Knight Returns, that maybe that's code for him finishing his story. So I think it's possible. I think Zack's a smart dude. Okay. And so I will continue to hold out hope. And again, Zack himself said, anything's possible. So again, we'll hold out that hope. But, I mean, as most, Zack said, never say never. But as most people, genuine Snyder fans, those that's not delusional, if Zack signified in any way that he's moving on from DC, we would accept it. As far as, again, those that are not delusional, Zack, this is just showing Zack's not moving on from DC. Like, he's still holding that nugget out there that, hey, and there's interesting things going on with the possible sale of Warner Brothers. I continued last year. I put out there about Turkey Al-Sheikh, the very wealthy Saudi who's a huge fan of Zack Snyder. Now Turkish Al-Sheikh. I was told last year they would keep an eye on the Saudis to potentially put in a bid for Warner Brothers. We'll see. If Warner Brothers Discovery survives with not being bought into spring of 2026 and it splits, the upcoming split, I wouldn't be surprised if Turkey Al-Sheikh and the crew, Saudis, put in a bid. It's as of the highest bidder is going to get this. Now there's stories that Turkey Al-Sheikh and his crew they're forming their own movie studio. Just stay tuned. Stay tuned to what's going to go on with that. That's going to be interesting. So, do I feel, again, Zack posting this, is he saying, hey, something's brewing? Well, longtime Snyder fans, we know when Zack is teasing something or just keeping something in the conversation. I think he is keeping this in the conversation. Now, I want to comment on how people are being affected by this. Those that, again, want to be a part of this fandom war, they get so upset, or they say Snyder fans are so toxic, but then they keep doing these backhanded slaps at Snyder and his fans when you already have the James Gunn Superman. Be happy if that's the version that you like, or if you want to go all the way back to Christopher Reeve or Brandon Routh, let Cavill Superman fans have their moment. I see these backhanded comments. Oh, he posted a dark picture. Well, yeah, have you seen BVS? BVS was a pretty dark film. Yeah, that's why I like it. I like that tone. If you like James Gunn's tone and you want more colors, so you got your different versions. This, seeing Henry Cavill Superman, again, a new shot, a BVS shot, making a lot of just Gunn fans a little nervous. Relax. You don't got a backhand. Oh, dark Superman. Go enjoy. You have your Superman now. If Corn Sweat is your Superman, you have it. Hey, you can watch it on HBO Max right now. Digital copies, physical media is coming. No one's taking that from you, and you're not taking Henry Cavill Superman from his fans. I mean, that's always been the hallmark of DC. Being a DC fan is different universes, multiverses, different tones. But I just see certain people feeling a little threatened by this Cavill stare. And so, yeah, that's interesting. Again, that Zack Snyder is obviously still showing his interest in DC, but then also too that again there is interest in his SnyderVerse, and obviously if he decides to, do one more project or as was stated before. But right here again with the Deathstroke picture, he says Joe Manganiello is the perfect Deathstroke. I think a lot of people agree with that. People obviously their minds go to the Batfleck movie that we didn't receive, but maybe if Amazon comes in and scoops up Warner Brothers next spring, they have a good relationship with Artist Equity. I believe Ben Affleck can do his Elseworld Batfleck project. I think that's possible. I think it's definitely possible, and that would be cool if he grabs Deathstroke. So as I stated before in the clip, and what we have right here, it's just showing for like several things that again, Zack Snyder has not moved on from DC, but also too just the popularity of his version of DC is still strong. And I know there's some people that don't like his DC too, just like with Gunn. Like, everyone doesn't have to like the same thing, but you can't deny the epic and just the interest that's there, and will probably always be there. I mean, you got the figurines that continues to sell, all the physical media attached with the SnyderVerse has sold, and just merely putting new pictures, new visions of this is causing excitement. And as I will continue to say with DC, as I continue to cover DC, that this is a good thing about DC, that you can have these different interpretations. Obviously, I love the SnyderVerse. I want to see Zack finish his story. And also, too, I maintain an open mind with this James Gunn DCU. And I have my critiques, but I am giving his DCU a chance. In 2026, I think it's going to be a good year. So I think, like I say, a lot of stuff with James Gunn's DCU, it hinges on Man of Tomorrow. I think that can change the trajectory, of what the DCU will be, just in my opinion. But I think it's going to be good stuff coming overall. And just the thought of Zack showing us new pictures, I mean, we could eat off this, for the next year or so if Zack just dropping these pictures, man. So it's exciting. It's really cool seeing people excited about this. And we're going to continue to keep our eye out, Zack, like what we got going on with this overall.
Questions from viewers with sylabdul.
Yes. Questions and comments from viewers. We wanted to touch on a few of these. That's made it a very interesting comment section, and so we're gonna pull some of these, and I'm just gonna kind of give my thoughts and answer a few, and kind of comment on some of y'all comments. Again, this session, it's never about trying to embarrass someone's opinion or anything like that, but some of y'all raised some good points, and like I said, some points I would like to address, in the comment section here. So we got one here. Again, talking about Zack posting on Instagram. They say here, Zack can post whatever he wants. I don't care. What I do care about is why he might post something. Saying Henry Cavill is Superman is true because he made that Superman. But saying Henry Cavill is Superman to just stir up his fan base, because that's why he posted it, is not okay. He's currently making a movie called The Last Photograph, and that's the movie he should be focusing on. Not stirring up the pot from a universe from 5 to 6 or how many years ago. That's my issue still. Now, I respect this comment, and I think somewhat the replies to this was somewhat respectful, but uh, uh this comment kind of stirred the pot a little bit too. But do I believe Zack Snyder is just trying to stir up his fan base? I believe, and I think most Snyder fans from the release the Snyder Cut days will see that Zack knows how to keep things in conversation, and when Zack is keeping something in conversation, it feels like it's always for a reason. And so I believe Zack has not moved on from DC. I think that's true. And yes, I believe he wants to keep this in conversation because I believe it's a possibility he can do his Elseworld project and likely finish his story. So I don't see anything wrong with that. To be quite honest, I don't think this is infringing on what James Gunn is doing. Just like Matt Reeves is not infringing, on or Gunn is not infringing on Matt Reeves. They all can do DC, right? They all have different visions. So I think that's the beautiful thing with DC. So I don't take it as negative as a negative thing. And yeah, he's making the last photograph, and I want to get some attention to the last photograph. I want to mention some DC, right? So again, I'm not taking it as a negative, in my opinion. But it's okay if people have that opinion. Now there were some replies to this. As they said, he told you that's why he posted it, to stir up the fan base. Because otherwise, you're just inferring. Yeah, I mean, everyone's having their opinion. Another comment says, everything is marketing. We will support the last photograph, and we want the SnyderVerse to be completed. Just say you don't like Snyder. Why have you ignored all his last photograph behind the scenes stills? He has been posting a lot. I don't like Gunn. I don't know where that last part came from. That's the classic, right? I hate James Gunn. Just out of nowhere. I hate James Gunn. Like, well, I guess he's just showing you, like, hey, if you just don't like somebody, just say it, right? I guess that's what that was. But like I said, overall, I don't take this as a negative. And I do believe Zack Snyder, he knows what he's doing, causing these discussions. And I can't wait till he drops a Ben Affleck picture, or a Gal Gadot, because the internet's going to go wild. So everyone's looking at his Instagram now. Just like we used to look at his Vero accounts. He would drop the dark side picture. He'll drop, different behind the scenes stuff, keeping that conversation going. So I don't see that as a bad thing. I think everybody can eat. We got another comment here. It says 2026 will be goated. We're talking about DC. So the delusional Snyder fans think one movie flops, they pivot immediately back to Snyder. It never made any sense, in my opinion. I think Snyder will come back, but only as a one and done. I think he desperately wants to direct Dark Knight Returns. He's been on record multiple times. I'm sure he also wants there to be a JL2, but it's probably also one and done. I don't know if he wants to spend 3 to 5 years on Justice League itself. There are projects that have been stuck in development hell. Seems like he wants to do other projects. If this whole DCU works out, I'm sure Snyder and Gunn would love to work together, making a movie again together. That's probably what will happen. Either Dark Knight Returns or JL2, but probably as one and done. Interesting comment here, right? And so like I continue to say, and that's really my mantra right now, is 2026 DC. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting year. I'm looking forward to all these different flavors coming. Now he mentions delusional Snyder fans, because there are a lot of genuine Snyder fans. Some I've met in person. I've traveled different cities, and then and these good Snyder fans, these well-intentioned Snyder fans, they supported Black Adam, Henry Cavill coming back, and things like that. So there are some genuine Snyder fans, and then there are some delusional ones as well too. There is a fracture, and I'll continue to shed light on that. Those who bring in their agendas and just false premises to the fandom. So we're going to continue to point those things out. But I've said that narrative of what is restored to SnyderVerse is, it's not, oh, if Gunn fails, then Zack Snyder's going to come back and we're going to get all those projects back. The Cyborg project, Adam, the Flashpoint story, everything like that. That never was a reality to me. As far as under this current setup, like 3 or 4 years ago, that could have been a possibility. But where we're at right now, I think Zack would do. He mentioned the Dark Knight Returns, and as you mentioned, JL2. I think that's all going to be one and the same. I think Zack has a way to finish a story, and I think the code for it is Dark Knight Returns. That's just what I feel. I haven't been told that. That's just my conspiracy side of me talking with that. But so I brought up this comment first off to show these opinions that there are some genuine Snyder fans that was, supporting Henry Cavill with Black Adam, and then there are some delusional ones who just wants everything to burn, to be quite honest. Over here, we saw it was a chance for the last ride of the SnyderVerse under DeLuca and Abdi. And we know how that changed. And now, I believe, like I said, Zack is posting these pictures because I think he said he wants to do another DC project. Zack said this. So I think with him, again, keeping things in conversation, that's showing us that he has not moved on, and that's still a chance for that. And like I said, everyone else can do their thing. And it probably will just be a one and done thing, I think. But I think if Zack gets another crack at DC, he will have a version of his story, and I think he can end it right there as well too. So very, very interesting comments there.
Forever vigilant, steady watching and listening, disciplined, militant, killing these dudes that started visiting. What's the latest word, yo, Sil? We need to know. Tell us what you heard, yo, Sil. We need to know the ins and outs. Who's walking out, buying in? We need to know your thoughts on what's new, what you do to stream a hell of a show. Let's go. One hell of a show. Let's go.